All right, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting for the City of Springdale for May 7th, 2025. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Pratt, if you could take roll.
Mr. Gleaves.
Present.
Mr. Jacobs.
Present.
Ms. McFarland.
Present.
Mrs. Sullivan-Wyscott.
Present.
Mr. Vanover.
Present.
Mrs. Webster. Mr. Anderson.
Present. Council, before we get started with the rest of the agenda, I'd like to take a moment of silent reflection in memory of the Hamilton County Deputy Larry Henderson, who was struck by a vehicle and killed while working traffic detail at the University of Cincinnati spring commencement this past week. As a public servant, we mourn his loss. Thank you. All right, Council, moving on with the business of the day. The next thing on our agenda is the minutes. In your packet, you've received the minutes for April 16, 2025. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those of approving the minutes as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved with 7 affirmative votes. All right, next up on our agenda is a proclamation for Mayor Hawkins, I believe, for Police Week and then Building Safety Month. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy proclaimed May 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week of each year during which May 15th occurs as Police Week. And whereas in the United States, there are more than 849,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across our great country, including 36 full-time and part-time officers and 5 support staff within our own department. And whereas more than 26,000 law enforcement officers have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty, including 147 officers during 2024. And whereas events are often held to honor the men and women who have died in the line of duty to protect and serve. And whereas the men and women of the Springdale Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service by safeguarding the lives and property of their fellow citizens. And whereas by the law enforcement of our laws, these same officers have given our country, state, and city internal freedom from fear of the violence and civil disorder that is presently affecting other nations. And whereas this administration joins in this special tribute to acknowledge all officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice, their lives, in defense of all citizens, including Springdale Police Officer Kai Grant, who was killed in the line of duty on March 21st of 2020 while protecting the citizens of Springdale. Now, therefore, I, Lawrence C. Hawkins III, Mayor of the City of Springdale, do hereby proclaim week May 12th through the 18th of 2025 as Police Week. Chief Butler, if you'd come forward, please, sir. Chief, you want to do your swearing in now? Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jeremy Beckwith,
I, Jeremy Beckman,
solemnly swear and affirm
solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
the charter, laws, and ordinances of the city of Springdale,
the charter, laws, and ordinances of the city of Springdale,
and the regulations, orders, and procedures of the Springdale Police Department.
and the regulations, orders, and procedures of the Springdale Police Department.
And I will discharge the duties of the office of law enforcement officer,
And I will discharge the duties of the office of law enforcement officer,
to which I have been appointed to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
to which I have been appointed to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
The Mayor Hawkins just did, we just swore in Jeremy Beckwith. I've had the pleasure of knowing Jeremy for several years. He is another transfer from Hamilton County. He makes us whole and full. Jeremy is a lifelong resident of Cincinnati. Did you write this, Jeremy? He says married to the love of his life, Laura Beckwith. Laura is a detective for Hamilton County also, so there's some animosity here with the family. Which department's better? Laura and Jeremy have two healthy boys, age 14 and 17, who are already taller than him.
Oh. Can we get that repeated for the record? I just want to make sure it was on the mic. I think the comment from the audience was it wasn't hard to do. So,
I didn't know if we were that part of the council where comments from the...
well, I just want to make sure it's on the record.
Yes, sir.
It's an open meeting. Thank you.
The Beckwith family, they have several acres of land out in Whitewater Township. They enjoy playing with their dogs and raising chickens. It's a new hobby of Jeremy's. Jeremy was a infantryman in the United States Army in the 101st Airborne. Served from 2003 and 2004 during the invasion of Iraq, in Operation Enduring Freedom in 2005 and 2006. Completed his tour in 2007. He was a drill instructor in the Army. Served for 21 years. He was a veteran of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. He started in corrections in 2007, served for 18 years in a multitude of roles from patrol, bomb squad, SWAT team. He was in the regional narcotics, and most recently, before coming to us, he was part of the FBI's task force. So he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to Springdale. We're glad to have him. Next, I'd like to introduce our three new administrative hires. Ladies, if you'd come forward. Oh, boy. I better get this one right. First will be Lisa Selm. Lisa is a lifelong resident of Cincinnati. She's a graduate of West High. She's a Mustang. Before joining Springdale, she served for 35 years with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. She was my administrative assistant in the courthouse where we took her from. She is a very valuable resource to us and always willing to help and jump in no matter what the job is. And I think she's up here a lot asking for more work, so we'll have to find her some more. Next, on the my right, your left, the council, is Karen Owens. Karen is also a resident of Cincinnati and a graduate of William Henry Harrison High School. She attended Mount St. Joe. Karen, before getting into the law enforcement world, worked at Fifth Third. Then she spent 12 years at Hamilton County Communications Center, where she rose to be a supervisor, where I had a long-standing relationship working with her for many years on nights. Let's see. Karen stepped away from law enforcement for a little bit, went into the private world, and decided she wanted to come back. She missed the family and attitude here, I guess. She resides with her husband and her adult children and one grandchild. And you enjoy playing Texas Hold'em? Okay. Next, you might recognize the young lady in the middle. She comes back to us, Judy Vogelsang. She was with the Springdale Police Department for a couple of years and decided to step out into the private world and decided to come back. She's a lifelong resident of Cincinnati and a graduate of Colerain High School. Ooh, yeah, we gotta keep going. She attended Antonelli College. Couldn't find an easier one to pronounce. Where she studied photography. Judy worked in the photo lab industry for years before at the Kroger Company before coming to Springdale, and we're glad to welcome her back. So.
Thank you, Chief, and we appreciate everything that everyone does in our department to keep us safe. It's the toughest job there is out there to do, so we thank you. And I heard you guys get cake, so I might try to get out of this meeting early to go get some myself. One more proclamation. Whereas the City of Springdale is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes and buildings play both in everyday life and in times of disaster, and whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety officials, fire prevention officials, designers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings and enforce modern building codes to protect the public from hazards such as snowstorms, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas Building Safety Month highlights the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our code officials who assure us of safe, sustainable, and livable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Building Safety Month encourages all citizens to raise awareness about the importance of safe and dependable construction. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local building departments in protecting lives and property. Now therefore, I, Lawrence C. Hawkins III, Mayor of the City of Springdale, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Building Safety Month. And I'm gonna ask for our guardian and building department head, Ms. Hayes, to come forward.
Here in the back. Look serious. You didn't have the same fanfare the previous proclamation did, but I will point out that you get a month and they only get a week, so thank you. It is important work, and I think we'll be spending a lot of time over the next year or two even updating some of the building codes, so there's a lot of work to do around here, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. After proclamations, I actually neglected, there was a request that I'd like to take care of administratively before we move on with the agenda. Administration has asked to add an item to the agenda, to add an executive session for economic development. So the chair is looking for a motion to modify the agenda to add that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or question about the agenda change? All right, all those in favor of making the change to the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the agenda's been updated. We'll go ahead and insert that planned executive session as 8E. So after ordinances and resolutions, we'll have that executive session. Well, I'll have the vote to go into executive session. All right, moving on with our agenda. Next up is communications. Ms. Browder, are there any communications for council this evening?
No communications. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Next up is communications from the audience. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience that would like to address council for any reason. Simply come forward to the dais or to the podium, state your name and address, and you'd have up to 5 minutes to address council for any reason. The floor is now open for communications from the audience. Second call. Third and final call. All right, at this point, I'm closing communications from the audience. And we'll go ahead and move on to ordinances and resolutions. First up is ordinance number 10, 2025. This is a second reading. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 10, 2025. An ordinance amending section 153.252 F6AI of the Springdale Code of Ordinances regulating the permitted number of domesticated pets. Whereas section 153.252 F6AI of the Springdale Code of Ordinances regulates the total number of household domesticated pets permitted, and whereas council seeks to revise the total number of permitted domesticated pets per household from 2 to 3 in the city. And whereas the council held a public hearing regarding this amendment on 2025, and Planning Commission has reviewed the matter and recommended approval. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring, Section 1. Section 153.252 F6AI of the Springdale Code of Ordinances shall be amended as follows. F, residential accessory use specific regulations. 6, keeping of domesticated pets, domesticated farm animals, husbandry of fowl, rabbits, or bees, and domesticated household pet daycare facilities. A, household domesticated pets shall be regulated as follows. I, no more than 3 dogs, 3 cats, or a combination of dogs and cats so as to not total more than 3. Section 2, that this council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, that this ordinance shall be effective from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the second reading of ordinance number 10, 2025. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have, walked through this, and be upfront, I'm not going to support. I think this is a Band-Aid. I think we really need to go in and take these animals out of the building code. It should be in a separate arena. And quite honestly, I think cats should be removed completely. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources consider them as companion animals. They're not licensed. And I think if we're really going to, do an honest job, instead of kicking the can down the road and piecemeal, I think that we need to get with Planning Commission and Building Department and do this right once and for all.
Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Planning Commission, that was definitely discussed, and there were several members that also felt the same that you do, that this needs to be taken out of building code. When this code was first made, when it was first put into effect, was back when people had dog houses in their backyard. So if you had 5, 6 dogs or whatever, it was a huge nuisance because they'd be out all night because dogs weren't allowed in at night. They were in dog houses. So now that's a little bit different. Animals tend to be more inside, and the outside is the accessory use if they need to go potty or whatever. So times have changed, and that's where Planning Commission looked at this as it needs to change with the times as well. But they also said that it should probably be taken out of land use, and that basically this was to give relief for those who do have more animals now, while council considers putting together a committee to look at this and take it out of code and look at other code as well. Thank you.
Other comments? I will say that from my understanding, this is, I know Mr. Vanover described it as a Band-Aid. This is one step that's been proposed by council. In the meantime, I know I've spoken with administration over the past month or two that around planning to do a wider update to recognizing the feedback from planning, that there's probably more things that need to be adjusted. I don't believe that any of those things are affected by this change in the meanwhile. So all of those other changes can still happen. This is, as Ms. Wisecup said, an opportunity to provide some relief in the meanwhile. It has gone through Planning Commission and did receive an approval from them, and I do respect that as well. So even in that discussion at planning, while there was an ask to look at wider things and maybe we should take out the building code, what we have to look at tonight is just this piece, this ordinance that has gone through the process. And I think it's important to recognize the work that was done to get it to this point. It was a collaborative effort between council, administration, and planning, and several departments in planning to get it to this point. I don't see anything in here that would negatively affect that work that we would do in the future. So I certainly support the change because it is the kind of thing that a future change would likely also include, even if it were to move out. So with that, is there any other questions or discussion on this ordinance that we're voting on tonight? All right, seeing none, Ms. Browder, if you poll council.
Mrs. Seldom Iscutt?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Vanover?
No.
Mrs. Webster?
Not being one to change horses in midstream, I'll go with no too.
Okay. Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Ordinance number 10, 2025 passes with 4 affirmative votes. I'm sorry, 5 affirmative votes. Thank you for the correction. I was stuck in my head that the ordinance needed at least 4 to pass, which is different than the last time we looked at one of these. Thank you for the correction. Okay, next up on the agenda is ordinance number 18, 2025. This is a second reading and can be acted on tonight. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 18, 2025, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into an LPA federal local let project agreement with the State of Ohio Department of Transportation related to the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Whereas the City of Springdale, the city seeks to enter into an agreement with the State of Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, related to the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure in the City of Springdale at various municipal locations, the project, and whereas the project will be funded primarily from federal and local funds and administered by ODOT. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1, the City of Springdale City Council hereby authorizes the mayor and city administrator to enter into an LPA federal local let project agreement with the State of Ohio related to the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure, the agreement. A copy of the agreement is attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the reading of ordinance number 18, 2025. It is a second reading, can be acted on tonight. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? See none, Ms. Browder, if you poll council.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mrs. Seldom Iscutt?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Ordinance number 18, 2025 passes with 7 affirmative votes. All right, next up on the agenda, we have ordinance number 19, 2025. This is a first reading. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 19, 2025. An ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to rezone the property located at 1171 East Kemper Road from office business OB to public facility FPF. Whereas the Planning Commission reviewed the request of the property owner to amend the zoning map of the City of Springdale, Ohio to provide for the rezoning of the property located at 1171 East Kemper Road from office business OB to public facilities PF. And whereas at its meeting of April 8, 2025, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and has recommended approval of the requested rezoning by a vote of 7-0. And whereas the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio Council held a public hearing pursuant to the requirements of the zoning code. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The proposed amendment to the zoning map of the City of Springdale, Ohio to provide for the rezoning of property located at 1171 East Kemper Road, as further described in the attached Exhibit A, from office business OB to public facilities PF, which has been reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission, is hereby approved by Council. Section 2. This council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, this ordinance shall be effective from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Council, that was the first reading of ordinance number 19, 2025. Are there any questions or discussion tonight? I'd just like to confirm with administration, we're set to have the public hearing at our next meeting, May 21st? Great. All right. Seeing no other lights, we'll see this again at our next meeting, and we will also have our public hearing related to this at our next council meeting. All right, next up, we have ordinance number 20, 2025, another first reading. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 20, 2025, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a written amendment to the agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the operation, control, and maintenance of traffic signal equipment in the city of Springdale. Whereas the city of Springdale, the city, entered into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the operation, control, and maintenance of traffic signal equipment located within the city related to certain state roads and highways through the passage of Ordinance 18, 2022, the agreement. And whereas the city entered into a first written amendment renewing the agreement with the passage of Ordinance 10, 2023. And whereas the city seeks to enter into a second written amendment renewing the agreement. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. Council of the City of Springdale, Council agrees to authorize the mayor and city administrator to enter into a second written amendment to the agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation related to the operation, control, and maintenance of traffic signal equipment located within the City of Springdale related to certain state roads and highways, the amendment. A copy of the amendment is attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, that was the first reading of ordinance number 20, 2025. Are there any questions or discussion on this tonight? All right, seeing none, we will see us again at our next meeting. All right, next up is ordinance number 21, 2025. This is also a first reading. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 21, 2025, an ordinance enacting and adopting the 2025 S-28 supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Ohio. Whereas the City of Springdale contracts annually with American Legal Publishing Corporation to prepare an update to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Ohio, the City Code, to reflect changes and ensure that the City Code is in compliance with recent revisions to local, state, and federal laws. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The 2025 S-28 supplement of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Ohio, as prepared and submitted by American Legal Publishing Corporation, a copy of which is on file with the Clerk of Council, who certifies that the codification, renumbering, and rearrangement in book form is correct, is hereby adopted and incorporated by reference as if set forth herein in its entirety. Section 2. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3. This ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, that was the first reading of ordinance number 21, 2025. Are there questions or discussion this evening? I will bring one item to the front on this. I know in the administrator's report, it had indicated an ask for an emergency clause to be added to this after our second reading, so it's not going to speed up the readings. It would just simply allow the changes to take effect on signature. Is that still the case? The administration would prefer that just for orderly maintenance? Yes. So we can either make that amendment tonight, or we could do it at in advance of the next meeting, if anyone would like that. If anyone has a preference, you should say that now. Well, why don't I make the chair is open to a motion to amend to add the emergency clause and a relevant section 4 that states the reason for the emergency.
I would like to make a motion to add the emergency clause and a reasoning to the
Second.
to the second reading of ordinance number 21, 2025. We'll make sure it's complete.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Second.
All right. Any questions or discussion about what the amendment would be? All right, can we poll council on amending ordinance number 21, 2025 to add the emergency clause and a related section 4 to describe the reason for the emergency?
Mrs. Sullivan-Weiscup?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. The motion to amend ordinance number 21-2025 with the emergency clause and related sections is approved with 7 affirmative votes. So you'll have an updated version of this in your packets for next time. And if there's any question about what those changes are, we can deal with them at our next meeting. The other thing I'll point out is that if you haven't had an opportunity to review the S-28, it is something where you'd have to come into the office to see it just because there's so much printing. I know in the past when I've done it, they would give you the section that would be updated and the large book of laws so you could see the changes side by side. It only takes a few minutes to run through it. So I would encourage everyone to do that if you haven't done that yet in advance of our next meeting. Okay, next we'll move on to Resolution R11-2025. Mr. Jacobs.
Resolution R11-2025. A resolution authorizing the City of Springdale's participation in the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers 2026 Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Program. Whereas, under the authority of Chapter 4123 of the Ohio Revised Code, employers, including public employer taxing districts, may group together to achieve a potentially lower premium rate than they might have as individual employers. And whereas the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers has created a Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Program to allow member municipalities to join together for that purpose. And whereas, through its participation in this group retrospective rating program, the City of Springdale will have greater opportunity to potentially experience savings in workers' compensation premium rates. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The City of Springdale hereby enrolls in the 2026 Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Program offered by the Ohio Public Treasurers Association and authorizes the City Administrator to execute any and all documents consistent with the enrollment in this program. Section 2. The Finance Officer Tax Commissioner is hereby authorized to pay the projected premium and any third-party administrative fees related to the City's participation in the Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Program. Section 3. This Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this Council, and that all deliberations of this Council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4. This resolution shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the reading of Resolution R11-2025. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Brown, if you poll council on Resolution R11-2025.
Mrs. Sullivan Weisskopf?
Aye.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Resolution R11-2025 passes with 7 affirmative votes. All right, Council, next up on our agenda is the item that was added, item 8A. Ms. Sullivan Weisskopf.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion under Article 2D1 of the Springdale Charter to discuss economic development issues.
To move into executive session. Is there a second?
Sorry.
I heard the second from Mr. Vanover. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Brown, if you poll council, I'll move into executive session.
Mrs. Sullivan Weisskopf?
Aye.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. All right, council is in executive session. We'll return. Are we expecting action out of this session? All right. Executive session. All right, next up on our agenda, we have number 9, old business. There was one item of old business that was published in the agenda, which was the application process for council-appointed committee vacancies. Council, we talked about this at our last meeting, and I asked that we think about if we wanted to make a change to the way council collected volunteers or applicants for the positions that come in from time to time. So at this point, this is your opportunity to either be a proponent of it or give feedback if it's something that we should pursue. What I would propose is that we do add an application process for all of our council-appointed vacancies that we would keep online as an open application. And that application will allow people either through the website or through paper form be able to submit their name and provide some information about their background and why they'd be a good fit for any of our vacancies that then council could pull from ahead of those vacancies. So we could then, rather than just having side conversations or reaching out to members of the community, we would just simply be able to encourage people. We could still do that, but then encourage them to go to the same place to apply so that when we're doing those applications for vacancies, we all have a piece of information and we have that ahead of time rather than hearing about it possibly for the first time in a meeting. So if we wanted to do that, there's two ways. We could go to two of our committees to do it, and we could work with administration and get that put up. But at this point, I'm open to feedback on that if you think it's a good idea or if you have concerns. Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's a good idea. We've discussed it before. I think we might have to get a committee together to figure out a template or how we want to get all this information together. But I'm definitely for it, and that's it.
Well, and we have two standing committees that could make sense to do that based on looking at it. So we have the Rules and Law Committee, and the rules part of Rules and Law is to, it was designed by the charter to take up any items that are related to the rules of how council operates. So it could certainly fit there because we might need to make some adjustments to Section 30 of our code, or maybe make other amendments, or have that discussion on, to the point Mr. Jacobs, I think, brought up last time. You know, are they required to apply, or is it just encouraged? So if we want to make a change to make that a rule, Rules and Law should probably look at that first. I could also see it fitting in with public relations. We have a standing public relations committee, and it certainly would fit in their charter as a point of outreach, that they could, as a committee that already exists, create that shared forum and work with administration or anyone else that would need to be involved, and then create that forum and get it published and then publicized. So I think either of those two committees would make sense. We could also create another committee, but I just don't know that we need to do that from my standpoint. Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess my question would be, okay, so they fill out an application. What is our review process? You know, just because they filled out an application doesn't mean, and I think that some insight discussion from us is necessary, because you know, we want to make sure that it's a fit for the committee that you know, we have the opening. You know, you've got some big committees, planning, BZA, that's just not, you know, Mr. and Mrs. John Q. Public, come on in. Can it be done? Yeah, it probably can, but there's a big learning curve that has to take place, and that would be my concern. I would tend to agree that the rules and laws would be the committee, but that's, you know, maybe this is premature, and that, you know, can be discussion in committee process too. So.
No, thank you. I think that's good feedback. In general, I think those are questions that committee, be it public relations or rules and law, would want to address. I'm not proposing that this change any of our requirements as council members that would be making that nomination. So it still would require a nomination just like the rules require today. This just creates a bigger pool for somebody to reach into. It doesn't prohibit you from doing any kind of pre-discussion. You could talk to whoever was in there. I think anyone that was going to nominate somebody from that pool, if they should talk to them first and make sure they're comfortable, because when we make that nomination, that's us saying that we believe that that person is fit for that role. So that requirement still exists. This is just a way to open up the process a little bit more, to make it a little easier to find out where that bench is. The other reason I think it's good to have a pool of applicants, at least that are interested in letting people express their interest in doing it, is it also tells us what we need to do a better job of advertising, right? If we don't have nominees for, say, like the Tax Review Committee, that probably means that we need to do some work as council members to let people know what that job is. Many of our committees are there because of ordinances that require them. Like, so if you look at our committee report that was sent out with the packet, there's a number of those committees that probably haven't met for 10 or 15 years. And there's others that exist and have to exist as long as the process behind it exists, like the CRA that was set up for the Rose Street development. That committee's existed and will continue to exist and will have vacancies that won't be filled because some of those vacancies are not done by council or administration, they're done by the developers. So this is just a way of us showing our work, is why I think it's a good idea. But the points that you raised make sense, that we need to answer, and that committee would need to answer what those rules are, and then create that comment form. Ms. Webster.
Since I have trouble hearing you and understanding you when you speak, tell me exactly why we're doing this. Is that because of the confusion the last meeting with the civil service? We do have a couple committees that do need to have, and I don't want to use the word qualifications, but qualifications, and civil service is one of them, as I stated 3 weeks ago. And some of the others, like BZA and planning, those are people that are on there that have had experience doing building, like Dave Oakham or something like that. He's been on there forever and a day, Galster, forever and a day. But somebody else, they don't have experience. So you want everybody to fill out an application to go on a committee. The mayor has certain appointments, Board of Health and Rec Commission, and Planning and BZA. So what about his appointments? He should have the right to appoint who he wants and who not have to pick from a committee. Is that what you're trying to do? Because I'm not clear with it, because I can't understand you.
Well, if it's easier to read, it's also in the minutes from the last meeting. None of what we're talking about would restrict the mayor or any of his appointments. I know when we spoke after, it's something they might want to do also, just to create an open portal where anyone in the public could express interest. This isn't a forced application. This isn't necessarily qualifications. It's just opening up the pool of applicants so we can understand who wants to do the work. If you look at our current BZA that you brought up, for example, there are people that come in and out of those appointments, and it's intentionally not just experts in the field. It's residents that are listening to those. They receive some training, but the majority of them that come in and out don't have that experience until they've started on the committee. So this is a way for us to get those qualifications. If you think about the last meeting we had, say, for example, that civil service meeting you mentioned for that appointment, there was a person that was nominated, and you had asked in the meeting, well, what are his qualifications? This is a way to answer that ahead of time so that you don't have to decide on the fly, hey, I've never heard of this person. How do I know if he's qualified? So this is just simply a way to open up to the public for them to express interest in any of our positions. It also lets council explain what those committees are and what they do. So in that webpage, how often they meet, when they last met, and what the general qualifications should be will be in that application form, and then people can express. It doesn't restrict or doesn't have to restrict who gets appointed by anybody.
So you don't think that would cause hard feelings if somebody applied for every committee there was and they didn't get any? Don't you think they'd get a little mad? I mean, now you have people that usually know somebody, like the mayor, for example. They know somebody, and they might say when they're campaigning, hey, if you ever have a position open, I'd like to have it and stuff. Or they ask him for rec commission appointments or planning. I know that happens. But I don't know. You think it's necessary to go to all that rigmarole?
Well, this is just another opportunity for people to express interest. If you remember from our last meeting, the chair from the Civil Service Commission also said that this was a good idea. It's in line with the way that they do things as well. I don't know that it's rigmarole, it's just a way to gauge interest. So it's up to you if you think it's worthwhile. I think it is important for us to have a pool of applicants. The discussions that you talked about that happen, say, on the campaign trail, that doesn't prohibit it. All of that can still happen. This is just a way for people to know what committees are available, what they do, and if it's something they think they want to help or serve the city, it's a way for people to do that. Not everyone in our community is comfortable calling the mayor and saying, hey, I'm really interested in this. It's a way for us to reconnect back. If you don't think it's worthwhile, it's certainly your prerogative. Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm understanding the process like this, is that it's the same exact thing we've always done. So if somebody wanted to be appointed to something, they can go to you, Levon, and they could say, hey, I would like to be considered if this comes up. They don't have to put it through the application if they don't want to. You can still do it and then bring up the bio like we've done before, or they have the opportunity to say that they don't know anybody up here or they don't feel comfortable, that this would be like they could put their bio information and all that kind of stuff on the application, and then we can see it. And if it is somebody that we want to consider, we can. And if not, we don't have to. It's not saying we have to pick from those applications. It's just saying, like, if we get another bind like we did last time, for me personally, I didn't know anybody who was available during the day that was willing to serve. And I was very clear on that, was that I asked, and there was just nobody available that could do that. And I think that if we did have something like this application, and then they understood this is at 2:00 in the afternoon, and then they were available, that would make that a little bit better and easier for everybody to communicate that way and get more people into these committees. So the way that I look at it, it's the same process plus a little bit more, if I'm hearing it correctly.
Okay. I just don't want to create any more problems
Yeah,
up here.
I
Thank you.
understand that.
Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. A neighbor of mine used to work for Woodlawn Police Department. He was interested in civil service, but right now he's in behavioral health. He works second shift. But as I've been explaining to people, that we have improved the communication, and I personally want more people to get involved with the city. And things happen when you are appointed to certain boards and you might not be able to serve anymore. So one thing is the fact that with not having a pool, you have to figure out at times, who do I get? Who do I reach out to come in? If you develop a pool, you already have a list of people to look at. You already vetted them. You know their interests. It makes it easier to fill that void. And I think this is basically what this is all about. And I'd like to see it happen.
Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think as long as we're clear with the public and up here, this isn't creating a line. Like, people aren't getting in line seeking these positions. They're saying, just so you know, I'd be interested, here's what I would bring to the show. I don't envision that those people expecting a reaction from us. So I don't think they'd feel entitled or get upset if they weren't then chosen. It's not getting in a line. It's just giving us options, is how I view it. And of course, we haven't crafted it yet, but to me, that's the vision that I'm hearing about.
So what do people think about rules and law versus public relations? The other reason I mentioned public relations, because of all the communication side of it, is rules and law tends to be an overworked group, and it can be, they've just done a lot, and it might be an opportunity for other council members to be part of that. Now, public relations, I believe right now, is Ms. Sullivan-Wisecup and Ms. McFarland. So, and then rules and law would be Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Vanover. Now, that doesn't change everybody else's ability to get feedback, just like any other committee. It's just they would start the work, create that application, work through the process, work with administration. Ideally, administration could use the same process, but it's really up to Mayor Hawkins how he wants to handle that. So is there a preference there? Because really the next thing to do is to make a motion to send the item to the committee for evaluation. Nothing we're doing tonight requires us to do it. This is just sending it to the committee to do the work to see if it makes sense. Mr. Jacobs.
It's a fair point that this could lead to other changes that would need to be made to be consistent, but whichever committee is doing it would have the assistance of Mr. Braun. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we have to go rules and law for that reason. The flavor to me sounds a little bit like public relations, but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Any other feedback? Mr. Vanover.
I'll just reiterate my point. I think rules and laws is the committee of this public PR. I don't look at this as a PR thing. I look at this as, you know, if we're going to develop it and go with this, this would be a tool for council to have in their toolbox. To me, it would make more sense, regardless of, you know, me being there or not, that it would be a rules and laws committee rather than a PR committee.
All right. Mr. Jacobs.
I think it is important to clarify, is the vision we have, they would have to go through this portal, or it would be a choice? Because I think we've kind of gone both directions. Just over the discussions, not tonight, but initially, I viewed it as a must as opposed to a should.
Yeah, so I think it depends on what the ordinance actually says. We could do it either way. We have the ability to require it. We would just have to change our council rules to require it. That's not what I'd envisioned when I brought up the topic. I'd envisioned it as a tool. And I think people that go through that and provide that information publicly, I think they're more likely to get the positions anyway, because we'll all have seen them and understand their requirements, rather than a last minute at the dais, here's a person. But that's really up to the committee to hash through and think about, and pros and cons. We can always change that or make those changes later. This isn't, like, we don't have to decide that tonight. What I'm looking for tonight is really, at this point, a motion to send the item to one of the committees and then have them look at it and see if we can set this up. Because there is a lot of demand out there for people that have this feeling that they want to help, but they don't know how to start. So this would answer that. So, if I may. Ms. Webster.
Are you going to make another committee?
So I've not decided to make a committee. What I'm asking is, I think it should go to Rules and Law or PR. I've heard feedback from Mr. Vanover about it making sense at Rules and Law, which I agree with those ideas. And Mr. Jacobs also said it could make sense in the PR committee that also already exists. I don't have a strong opinion. It's whatever council wants it to do.
The Rules and Laws? No, it should go there.
To Rules and Law?
I think we've had just committees coming out the yang since we've been up here.
I
Every
agree.
time there's a confrontation or an issue, we got to have a committee. I think that's overkill. I think Rules and Laws would be good for that. Not another committee.
I don't think anyone on this dais has asked for another committee for this. There have been two proposals, PR, which already exists, and Rules and Law, which already exists.
Okay.
But again, it's up to council. Mr. Jacobs.
At the risk of overcomplicating it, I do think it's important, if we make this process, or a resident expressing interest, if we make that a rule, then it has to go to Rules and Laws. If it's an optional thing, it doesn't make as much sense to go to Rules and Laws. That's just, I hate to split hairs over it, but if it's a rule, yeah, it has to go to Rules and Laws.
Mr. Vanover.
Well, and I think that's a point of discussion in committee.
Yeah.
I think that to say, well, we're going to send it to Rules and Laws and it's going to be a rule, that's, you've done handicapped the committee to work, and essentially then why send it to the committee, just rule from the floor of council.
For what it's worth, I agree. What would be sent to committee that I'm proposing is the application process for council committee appointments, with the intent of creating an open application process. If Rules and Law has the discussion and says, hey, you know what, this doesn't belong here, or we don't know, then we can come back and have that and fix it, or create another committee, or send it to PR. Or after Rules and Law finishes their work, the PR committee could convene and publicize it, right? It doesn't have to be all at the same time. We don't have to do everything to do anything. So I agree. So I'm hearing a lot of feedback more towards Rules of Law, because that covers us in case we wanted to make required. If it's optional, they can involve the PR committee later, right? Ms. Sullivan-Weiscup.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's what I was going to ask, was can they kind of work in back to back, like it would start at Rules and Laws, then end up with Public Relations to kind of,
Sure.
The Rules and Laws makes the determination, and then Public Relations kind of sculpts what it looks like, something like that. That's what I was thinking.
That's right. So our standing committees, the point of standing committees are when something comes up from council, we don't have to create a committee every time. There's already people that are set up. So after Rules and Law evaluates it, we can launch it, and then if there might be there might be a recommendation as part of that to help publicize it and show all the great work that we did and say, hey, this is how you get involved. And then Public Relations group might figure out a better way to get people involved. That gets to the point of why I think it's important is once it's launched, if we find that there aren't people that are interested or engaged, that's probably Public Relations work to figure out why, right? We probably need to talk about the committees, the work, figure out how to get people the experience that they need so they can be part of those bigger committees, the more active ones like BZA or planning, right? It might be, hey, I'm interested in planning. We might see that there's 12 people that are interested in joining that group. but it's a very active group with a lot of experience. It might be an opportunity for public relations or administration to reach out to those people and have a mini workshop or help them understand what the job does. You know, help them hone those skills, because those people that have been doing it for 20 and 30 years aren't going to be here in 20 to 30 years, right? So we need to have that bench of skill ready to go, and that's what I'm asking for. Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I agree. I think rules and laws is the place to start, and then allow public relations to carry that out to the public. So I will make a motion to refer that to rules and laws to evaluate.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion about the active motion to send the application process for council-appointed committees vacancies to rules and law? All right, seeing none, Ms. Browder, if you would poll council on the motion to send this to committee.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mrs. Sullivan-Wisecup?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. The motion is approved with 7 affirmative votes to send the application process for council-appointed committee vacancies to rules and law for evaluation and recommendation back to council. Obviously, we've been working for some time as is, so this isn't a rush item, but I think it would be good if we got this moving over the summer while we've got some extra time, so that maybe we can start the next council session with the new process. I think that would be the goal that I have, but it's certainly up to the committee for how quickly they can do the work. Because the next tranche of applications and changes will be after December, so in January of next year. So if we're going to do something in advance of that, they'd have to move pretty quickly. Okay, is there any other old business? Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. I got 2 items. One, we heard some discussion up here prior to them being the summer schedule.
I've got that under new business, but we can talk about it now if you like.
And we get that. The other point, it was disheartening, and on multiple occasions, there were signs specifically for the school levy and the right-of-way, and it was all over. We walked in Sharonville the other day, and it was the same way. There was one that, well, there were some earlier that were at the stop sign there at Castro. Those were removed. Well, then yesterday, day before, one showed up at the corner of Tivoli and Crescentville Road. There's one still down by the church right now. And as we're starting into the summer with contractors, typically they're the big violators, but just be aware that the public right-of-way is not free signage location. But it was disheartening with the school doing that. I understand they need to advertise, but follow the rules.
Sorry, are you saying that you believe the school was placing those signs, or was it individuals? I guess
somebody. I don't know who placed them, but they were, all of them were, and I've gotten feedback from other areas of our community that this was a common practice.
So are you asking us to take some action on that, or is this just an
Well,
announcement?
no, I think it's a point. The building department's the one's going to take action, and I would, whether it's, well, school issues over with now, but as we're moving into the contractor season, if we see this, get it, it's not fair to those that play by the rules to be allowed to do this. That's been a standing rule forever. And I just think that to point out that the public right-of-way is just that. It is public right-of-way. It is not private property for signage of any sign, any degree.
All right. If we need to take a look at our local ordinances to support that or refute that, we certainly can, but I'm not hearing that as an ask. This is just an announcement. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm being respectful of your ask. Okay, and then that's all we have for that. Mr. Jacobs.
Just to speak to that, in just the last week, in less than a quarter mile on the Pike, there were 10 signs for a healthcare scam. I called the number. It was an out-of-state broker. He blamed it on a marketing company, but there were literally 10 signs in just a very, so I see it, it's unacceptable no matter where it comes from, but I see it with mattress sales, I see it with just people trying to use our city for a commercial, and I've reached out to administration when I see them. I've been told by administration that those signs can be pulled down. We don't have to go through any process. They've left their property out. It's littering, and I agree it's unacceptable no matter where it comes from. And I will just tell you, those 10 signs are no longer there.
Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. That was going to be my question. Can we just take those down when we see them out of place? And then as far as, like, the school levy, do they have a certain amount of time to take those down after? They need to be gone already? Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Braun, did you want to speak to that? I'm not sure, I mean, we don't need to get into the legalities of it tonight. This was an announcement that Mr. Vanover was sharing, and we don't have any action in old business related to this. So we can take this offline, or if there's something that you think would be helpful here, Mr. Braun, this is certainly an opportunity.
Just to answer Councilmember McFarland's question, you have to have permission to place signs on property. If it's placed in the right-of-way, I think Mr. Jacobs is correct, it's litter. But I would always say that if it was placed there by the property owner, you cannot remove it. That would be theft. So that's just to clarify.
So I guess be careful if you're going to be a vigilante litter picker-upper, certainly. And if anyone that's a resident that has a question about a sign, say on the expressway, we're encouraging them to call administration rather than take action. I'd hate for somebody to walk onto somebody's property and then hear about one of those stories where that property owner then comes out and it causes a problem. So deferring for safety is my recommendation, and I would encourage you to call administration during business hours to find out if there's something there, in the building department or the police could come out and take a look if it makes sense. Is that okay with you, Mayor Hawkins and Mr. Yule, since I'm putting you on the spot? Yes, thank you. The record doesn't see the nodding, but for the record, they were nodding yes. All right. Mayor Hawkins, did you have something on that?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to say, I personally have bothered Mr. Yule and formerly Mr. Jones on the weekend when I've seen things, somebody put some signs in one of our parks, and so I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something that someone had approved before I yanked them, and then I promptly yanked them. But yes, as Mr. Braun said, don't run afoul of the law, or call me if you do. Thanks.
All right. Good. We can be good community members in that space. All right. We're still in old business. Is there any other old business that anyone on council or administration would like to bring forward?
Were
Yes,
we
sir.
going to discuss summer schedule?
Yeah, I've got summer schedule on the new business side since we haven't discussed it yet. All right. Seeing no other old business, now we're new business. There was the one item Mr. Vanover brought up that administration and I were talking before the meeting about the summer schedule. You may not believe it, but we're almost in summer, so the rain has stopped, at least for today, and we're ready to talk about that. So typically, council has gone into summer session, which would be the July and August meetings. Typically, when we do that, it's because there's less business that requires our attention during that time. It does not mean that committees can't meet and we can still do work. It just means that if we agree to go on summer schedule, we would just have one meeting in July and one meeting in August, and we would cancel those standing meetings. Typically, if we do go to summer schedule, we usually keep the second meeting, which is where we have the full schedule with the committee reports. However, administration has advised that in July, they're intending to do some work in this building that will affect the drywall, and it's currently scheduled for that second week in July, or that second meeting week in July. So what the question on the floor is, first, do we want to do summer schedule today, or for this year again? And if we do, is it okay to keep the first meeting in July, which would be July 2nd, and then in August, we would just have the August 20th meeting? Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can do either. My question would be, and to me, the overruling decision would be, is the administration capable? Is there something pressing that will not work with that process? So that's my only comment there. It was the concern if the administration had issues with that, then we would stick with our normal schedule.
Certainly, and just because we cancel the meeting tonight, doesn't mean we can't pick it up if something were to come up. Say there was some hot action that we needed on the mall or some development. We could certainly do that if we needed to. Mr. Yule, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, just a quick update on a couple things that are going on. So the intention this year is to renovate the council chambers, to replace carpet, do some painting, but also as part of that LED energy efficiency lighting, they'll have to come in here and take out some of these can lights, replace some of them. As you can tell when you look in the ceiling, there's a lot of can lights in our ceiling. Not all of those will go back because of the LED and efficiencies. So there'll be some drywall repair that'll need to take place. They'll also be doing ceiling tiles, and as mentioned, painting. And to get up higher, they'll have to bring scaffolding in. We met with a contractor, one of the contractors last week, and I asked him about a time frame to go the second meeting in July to the second meeting in August, and he thought that was way too tight of a time schedule to get all that work done. So the request is to consider July the 2nd, so to allow a couple extra weeks for some of this work to get completed.
All right. Any other questions, discussion on that? All right, so I move that we do approve a summer schedule tonight. That would mean we would cancel our July 16th meeting, would be canceled. We would move committee appointments and that full schedule to the July 2nd meeting instead. And then we would cancel our August 6th meeting and just have our August 20th meeting that month, which would give the contractors the full block of time. The one thing that we would need to make sure we do is follow up with, like Mr. Coleman in civil service, that he would be able to attend or have a designee since he's not on council and regular reports in that July meeting. So I move that we cancel those two meetings.
Second.
Questions or discussions about canceling and moving the summer schedule? All right, just by affirmation, all those who agree to cancel the meeting signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, so those two meetings are canceled. If we can get that updated on the calendar, and then make sure there's a big note. And then would you like me to follow up with Mr. Coleman, or did the administration want to do that?
We'll take care of notifying him. Thank you.
If not, I see him cutting grass around the kitty court for me most weeks.
Thank you.
All right. All right, any other new business that anyone on council or administration would like to bring forward? All right, seeing none. Meetings and announcements. Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to get the rental committee together either the 13th or 14th next week, about 2 o'clock. So let me know which day works best.
I'll get with you after the meeting. I'll check the calendar. I'll get with you after the meeting. It should be fine. All right. Ms. Sullivan-Weiskup.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Commission will meet in these chambers next Tuesday, May 13th at 7 p.m.
Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Health will meet in these chambers tomorrow evening at 6:30.
Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. The BZA board is scheduled to meet in these chambers at 7 p.m. May 27th. And at 6 p.m., we are scheduled to have some training session, Mr. Brown, am I correct? Do you know anything about that?
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I'll confirm that with Ms. Hayes.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've proposed it. So.
Okay, yeah, we talked about that at our last meeting, so hopefully we can get that done at 6 p.m. Thank you. That's all I have.
Did you? Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just piggybacking on Ms. McFarland for the Board of Health, I think it's important for council to know, as well as the general public, with regard to the Board of Health meeting tomorrow, it will be Dr. Webb's last meeting. He's been engaged with the Board of Health since 1986. Right. 1986. And so this will be his last meeting. He's retiring from the practice, and a gentleman who is working in his practice is going to come on as our city medical advisor. But important to note his great service to the city.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. A general announcement for council. Several weeks ago, you would have received an email from the Ohio Auditors of State announcing that they will be completing the 2024 audit for the city. As part of that audit, they have requested that all of our elected officials complete a short 7-question fraud risk assessment questionnaire. I have hard copies of those for you this evening that I will distribute after the meeting, and then we will also send that out via email for you to complete and return as well with further instruction.
Are we submitting these back to administration, or does this go straight to the auditors?
Back to administration, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. One last thing, I want to do my best Kathy McNair impression and remind everybody to take care of your Ohio ethics. It's coming up, I think, the 15th of May. So if you haven't already, I'm not going to make you raise your hand if you've done it or not, but just make sure you take care of that.
Thank you for the reminder. Mr. Vanover.
Just kind of while we're doing meetings announcements, with the work going on in here, what's going to be the effect on BZA and planning? Because planning typically meets that second week.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, we're going to have discussions with Mrs. Hayes to decide how we can kind of schedule around, depending on what the applicants look like. I mean, if we need to move forward, we may evaluate moving them down to the mayor's courtroom, down in the police department as an option as well.
Not sure that could happen because that's during, our planning commission is during neighborhood watch, unless they move neighborhood watch someplace else.
We will we will look for another suitable location if we need to move it. But I think that we're going to look to potentially postpone if we can. If not, we'll find another suitable location.
Mr. Yule, would it help for you if I created a subcommittee to look at scheduling for you, or do you think you've got this?
That would be fantastic.
All right, I'll take that under consideration. Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a reminder for all elected officials and administrators that the 14th of May, next week, is the student council lunch at Springdale Elementary. You should have all received an invite, and they are asking that you RSVP to Officer Reardon. So Tortilleria Garcia will be served for lunch by the students who get to sit and have lunch with us. So they're very excited and are looking forward to seeing us.
And if you haven't been to one before, you should try to sit as close as possible to Mayor Hawkins. He's something of a celebrity every time he's down there. He gets mobbed. It's actually very cute how they reach out. All right. Any other meetings and announcements? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Next, we have a second opportunity for communications from the audience. If anyone in the audience would like to address council for any reason, simply come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and you'd have up to 5 minutes to address council. At this point, the floor is open for communications from the audience. Second call. You simply come forward. And if you could just state your name and address, and then you can sign in after if you like.
Okay, my name is Pam Rathjens, and I live at Baldwin Grove. That's 11111 Springfield Pike, apartment 169. My address to the council people is that there is a resident in the building, and the building code, I was told, there's no smoking allowed. When I first came to Baldwin Grove, it was allowed in your unit only. But there is a resident that's been there before me, and I have been there since 2008 of March. And this individual is not even a senior. He is the son of his mother. He lived with her. But the mother was very sick, and she is now with her daughter. The whole family smoked. But anyway, I'm having trouble with this individual. If I go out to clean my car out or do anything, he is smoking around my unit. My unit is at the end of the complex where walking traffic goes by. And I'm on the ground floor, so this individual feels like, that he can smoke anywhere. I asked our new manager, where is the smoking allowed? She said it's in the courtyard, in the gazebo. And I said to myself, I didn't say it to her, that we had a meeting some time back, and the residents did not want smoking at the gazebo. Wood holds smoking. It holds the smoke, the smell. So that was not allowed. But now, the new manager said that that's where it's at. Well, previous meetings, they said that they could smoke by the dumpsters. There's 2 dumpsters. And so it seems like this individual was not a senior, and I believe that there is something mentally wrong here with him. That he can, when there's no management around, he can smoke and do what as he pleases, which is not allowed. If I brought memos that are sent to us about smoking, that if they're caught, they would be no longer living there. Well, this young one is still living there, and he's been there longer than me. So, and I said, what's wrong with these bulletins that they say that the smoking and certain, things that if you're caught, you're going to be, you cannot live there anymore. Well, that's not, it's just hearsay and whatever, There's no action. And then my son said, no, Mom, because I wanted to go to the police department. So I would like to know from you, members of Springdale, and I've always liked this community. I used to be a Sears employee, and I've always liked Springdale. I've always liked Springdale. And I had a home in Springfield Township, on the border of Coleraine, but I still like Springdale, and it just seems like my son said, Mom, don't go to the police department. Because this guy, I'm having phone calls. The phone rings once. And that person knows that once the phone rings once, that number is not going to show on your phone display. Oh, Mom, you're going to have to get a cell phone that's working so you can cut out the landline. I found out that the landline was open to the public.
Hi, ma'am, your time's expired. Maybe we can, I'm sure that's very frustrating on public property. or private property. I'm not sure what we can do here tonight. Mr. Yule, did you have some thoughts?
I do. I know we spoke, I think at least twice prior, and I think a couple other people in the room have spoken with you. If you would, just make sure your phone number's there, and we'll follow up with you with a couple options and try and help you out as best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Webster.
Ma'am, how long has that new management company been there? Hello? How long has that new management company been there?
They change like night and day. But they change so often. I think she's only been there for maybe 3 months at the most.
I think your problem, or you really need to contact the management company. And if those are rules in that Baldwin Grove, no smoking, then they should abide by those.
Right.
So I think that's where you need to go. Have you talked to anybody there? At the management company?
I have called her and left a message on her voicemail, and that's been a good week or two ago, and she's not.
Is there somebody there on the main floor that would be able to help you with the management company getting to talk to someone?
Well, now, I would go down to CMHA to deposit my rent. And back in February, I gave them 2 months' rent because they keep saying that I owe. And I'm wondering, I pay my bills. But anyway, I wanted to bring my daughter, who is also my power of attorney.
I'm not sure if the police department has any legitimate business to enforce that law when it is a complex like that.
Right. And
So that's what I would do.
My son says, Mom, don't go to the police. Don't go to, and so.
Do whatever you can to get a phone number and somebody to talk to you.
Well, yeah, because
Please?
I'm going through the papers and the bulletins that they give
Yeah.
to each of the
Okay.
residents. And I noticed that they changed the phone number to the office, the main,
Well, I think that's where you should go for help and relief of this matter. I can imagine how disgusting it is
Well,
for
we
you.
have to make appointments. But if they don't answer the phone, I don't know how to make an
Yeah,
appointment.
the whole world's like that.
All right, it sounds like you've got some action here where administration's going to reach out. We have some ideas that might help you. So just make sure you leave your phone number, and they should be able to at least get you something to move you along.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you for coming in. And for what it's worth, I also like Springdale like you. I think we're all fans here. All right, the floor is still open if anyone else would like to address council for any reason. Second call. Third and final call. All right, at this point, I'm closing communications in the audience. Next, we'll move on to a recap of legislative items and legislation still in development. Mr. Jacobs.
Council, as you review your legislative summary, item 1 was addressed by Ordinance 10, 2025, receiving a second reading, an ordinance amending section 153.252 F6AI of the Springdale Code of Ordinances regulating the permitted number of domesticated pets. That ordinance passed with 5 affirmative votes. Item 2 was addressed by Ordinance 18, 2025, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into an LPA federal local let project agreement with the State of Ohio Department of Transportation related to the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure that received a second reading and passed with 7 affirmative votes. Item 3 was addressed by Ordinance 19, 2025, receiving a first reading, an ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to rezone the property located at 1171 East Kemper Road from office business OB to public facility PF, and that will be on the agenda at our next meeting for a second reading. I'm sorry? And a public hearing, thank you. Item 4 was addressed by Ordinance 20, 2025, receiving a first reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a written amendment to the agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the operation, control, and maintenance of traffic signal equipment in the city of Springdale, and it will be returning at our next meeting. Item 5 was addressed by Ordinance 21, 2025, receiving a first reading, an ordinance enacting and adopting the 2025 S-28 Code Supplement to the Springdale Code of Ordinances, and it shall return. Item 6 was addressed by Resolution R11, 2025, a resolution authorizing the City of Springdale's participation in the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers 2026 Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Program. That passed with 7 affirmative votes. In development, to receive our first reading at our next meeting on the 21st, Item 7, a resolution approving the final Hamilton County 911 plan pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Chapter 128. And then additionally, Council made 2 other decisions. Following a discussion of an open application process for applicants for various committees, Council approved sending such a proposal to the Rules and Laws Committee. And finally, a decision to cancel our July 16th and August 6th meetings were approved, putting Council on a summer schedule. Unless there's anything forthcoming from administration.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have 2 things that will be forthcoming at our next meeting that have kind of started to circulate the last couple of days. The first one being I don't want to jinx us, but I believe we're going to take delivery of our ambulance that was ordered almost 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. I think in the next couple, I want to say days, but I'm being optimistic, hopefully within the next 2 weeks before our next meeting, it will be here. With that, we will have to get some legislation for a lease agreement with Fifth Third. So they are working through that process right now to get all that buttoned up for us. Secondly, we will have some legislation with an emergency clause for our electricity aggregation. There's been our current contract is up in August, and the reason for the emergency clause will be so that when a broker determines it's the right time to lock in, we can lock that rate in, because those rates aren't guaranteed for days or 30 days. They're guaranteed for like 2 hours. So we'll also have Dan Dieters from Energy Alliances come in as well, just to kind of give us a quick overview and rundown on how our electric aggregation program has been working, the amount of money that it's been saving our residents, and also kind of give a little bit of an outlook on the energy forecast. So that's it.
And you mentioned this was just for electricity. I know our gas aggregation goes, it's coming up later this year as well. Is that also in development?
This is just for electricity, so gas would be later.
All right. Anything else on legislation in development or recap? All right. Seeing none, all we have left is item 15.
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.